Okay, zoning board, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines will remain off. Go for it.
Thank you, Matt, and welcome everybody to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting work session for August 6th, 2024. We have a work session this evening. Prior to our work session, I just want to make a statement regarding the passing of an ex long-term zoning board chairman and member, Phil Gamble, who passed away a couple of days ago. Mr. Gamble had joined the zoning board in 1980, and I believe he served the zoning board for 30 or over 30 years, almost 30, around that area. It's a long, long time. He's known as a legend in the town, and I don't know how anybody can fill the shoes of that tenure that he served. There was an article when he left in the Star when he left the zoning board, and I'm just going to read a couple of short paragraphs from that. Mr. Gamble's dedication to the board stems from his love for East Hampton and the water. Originally from Bay Ridge in Brooklyn, he moved here in 1961. We're serving the Navy. He worked on a Montauk fishing boat before getting married, changing careers, and eventually founding an Amagansett plumbing business, Phil Gamble and Sons. He said the knowledge he had gained from his vocations had served him well. If the town didn't have zoning, this is quotes from Phil Gamble, if the town didn't have zoning, it would be similar to what you see up island. If you want to drive and see the water, you can't because there are all sorts of buildings up. You can't walk to the beach. There are no access, he said. Commenting on how the ZBA works, he said, nobody has any more power than each individual, which is, I think, the proper way to do it. The chairman doesn't have any more votes than a member. And I appreciate that saying from him. And I just, I want to thank him and his memory for his service to this town. And may our prayers be with his family. Thank you. In our work session, we have administrative applications. The first one is Owen McCann at 145 Greenwich Street in Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-19-4-4. The description is to legalize an existing deck, gravel driveway, masonry, bins, and propane tanks, construct 631 square foot of additions within 150 feet of wetlands, and install an IE sanitary system within 200 foot of wetlands. We're going to ask Morgan from the planning department to lead us away.
Yep. Good evening, board. So the deck that the applicant is requesting to legalize is on the east side of the residence. It's about 700 square feet. They're also asking to legalize this brick walkway on the west side of the residence. And then they did expand the driveway about 300 square feet on the west side of it right there. They are also proposing a 284 square foot addition above the existing attached garage, and then another 350 square foot addition on the north side of the residence, which is about 143 feet from the wetland. The garage addition is approximately 107 feet from the wetland. They are also upgrading to an IA sanitary system, which is mandatory in this case because they are adding bedrooms. And that's about it. They're bringing the total gross floor area of the house to 1,531 square feet. 1,531 square. Yeah, the existing GFA is about 900 square feet.
Wow.
That's Gainsborough Court next to it.
Yes, this is kind of a paper road part of Gainsborough Court, so it's unimproved. Yes.
So it's going administratively because?
It's more all the improvements are more than 100 feet away from the wetlands. It's kind of a modest addition. The total house GFA is only going to be about 1,500 square feet. It's pretty straightforward in the planning department's view.
The IA system is not required or is required.
It is, correct. And it is going to be in a more conforming location than the existing one. The existing one is more than, or less than 100 feet from the wetland.
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with this.
I'm okay.
I'll be all right with it.
We have a motion?
Okay. So for the application of Ian McCann at 145 Greenwich Street in Montauk, tax map 300-19-4-4, make a motion to allow this application to be processed administratively.
I'll second it.
Concur.
Concur, thank you. And I don't think we'll have a problem with the next one. Timothy McAuliffe Jr. and Alexandra McAuliffe, 6 Oyster Shores Road, East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-118-1-54. That's a demolition of the existing improvements on the property, some of which are within 100 foot of the wetlands.
So this property is located within the head of harbor area of 3 Mile Harbor. It basically proposes to demo all structures, so that way the property can be acquired by the town with the Community Preservation Fund.
Has sense?
It'd be nice if that house could move somewhere for like affordable housing, but I get it, so, right?
Especially over by Oyster Shores, which we know are needed.
How much room you got?
I'll make a motion in the application of Timothy McAuliffe Jr. and Alexandra McAuliffe, 6 Oyster Shores Road, East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-118-1-54, to approve the administrative application.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Thank you. Next, we have Michael Brosnan at 24 Seaview Avenue in Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-57-1-21. And that is to remove a portion of existing driveway and construct a 1,549 square foot 2-story addition, swimming pool, pool house, fencing, and upgraded sanitary system on a parcel of land containing freshwater wetlands. The project also includes the construction of a detached garage outside of NRC jurisdiction.
So the 1,549 square foot addition is proposed exactly 100 feet from the wetland, which is this pond over here. There's some quite steep slopes that go down to this pond. This will bring the house to 3,137 square feet total. The swimming pool is proposed 105.6 feet from this wetland, and the pool house is proposed 113 feet from the wetland. They are upgrading the sanitary system to a conforming location that is more than 150 feet from the wetland. That is a mandatory upgrade. There's also a proposed garage that is out of jurisdiction of the Natural Resources Special Permit. They are offering up 3,500 square feet of revegetation. A lot of it is on the west side of the property. But they are adding some vegetation to there's an existing vegetated buffer to the wetland, and then they're improving upon that with some additional revegetation. And that is going to bring the clearing to a conforming amount that is below the maximum allowed. There is an existing scenic easement on the property from a prior NRSP application that was filed in 2000.
How big is the property? I can't read it from here.
Yeah, I think it's cut off. The lot area excluding wetlands is 44,503 square feet.
Now, what is that, a vernal pond down there in the corner? The wetland?
They're standing water in it a large majority of the year. I mean, I was there in late winter, early spring, and it was standing water, so, that there definitely is water in the springtime.
And that's Seaview. That's not the ocean on the...
No, it is not oceanfront. It is within Surfside Estates, I believe. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Is this area subject a lot to flooding issues? I think I just remember something happening like a few
Yeah.
years ago.
Surfside does experience a lot of flooding. There's a lot of slopes kind of similar to this. This is kind of probably one of the steepest slopes in the area. A condition of an admin permit would be that there's gutters and leaders on all roofed structures that lead to dry wells.
And you think that the conditions when you add in that re-veg are environmentally as good as they can be, given that, there's these wetlands and
Yeah, it's
flooding
a pretty
and-
substantial revegetation. There's not a lot of room for additional mitigation.
But a lot of the re-veg is going to be on the west side.
Yeah, so there's a key here. It's kind of hard to tell because the colors are quite similar, but there's a hatch
Right.
mark that is where there's existing cleared areas that are to be revegetated. The orange hatch marks are just proposed clearing for the new structures.
Yeah.
And then there's like a dotted area all around here, which is the existing. So there's some hatch area here, all up in here. Basically, it kind of follows this dotted orange line all the way around, just because the color is a little similar. It's kind of hard to tell. This is all existing uncleared area over here.
But in the end, there's a net benefit in terms of the buffer between the wetlands and the house. Is that
There
what
is.
your position is?
Yes.
Any thought to increasing the scenic easement or increasing the scenic easement, something you thought about? Or?
I think we might get into territory where it would be getting a little close to the existing structure, because there's usually the 10-foot required setback from the scenic easement. There's this red dotted line along here that designates the existing scenic easement.
Okay.
Yeah, so it starts basically right where the slopes start to go down drastically.
Okay, any board members?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Let's have a motion.
Yeah, I'll read it in. And then in the case of the application of Michael Brosnan, 24 Seaview Avenue, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-57-1-6.1, I'd like to make a motion to allow this application to proceed administratively.
Second.
Concur.
Concur, thank you. Next, we have Alan Weinstein at 4 Spread Oak Lane, East Hampton, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-91-2-16. And that is to allow an infill pool patio to remain 25.9 feet from the rear yard lot property line where 30 feet is required, which reduces the setback by 13.7 feet.
So this variance request qualifies for a variance without a hearing route. The existing setback is 25.9 feet where 30 feet is required, and that reduces the required setback by 13.7%. The threshold for a variance without a hearing is no more than 25%, so it's well under that threshold. It's pretty straightforward. The affected neighboring properties will all still be noticed and during this process about the variance request.
Why did it happen?
During my research for the application, there was a CO issued after the construction of the pool that depicts a slightly smaller coping, in the affected area. But when I looked at the aerials, I really could not tell that it was expanded in any way. So there may have been an error on the CO, on the survey associated with the CO. It's hard to say for sure. But at no point did I see that there was actually construction going on in the aerials for the patio.
But the pool was in the place, the pool itself is in the place it's supposed to be.
Yes, the pool is 30.9 feet away from the property line.
And they have no way of fixing this in a easy way?
I can't really speak for the applicant in that case. If there's any opposition from neighbors during the notice period, it immediately goes to a hearing.
Yeah.
So they have to properly notice for this variance.
We okay? I'm okay
I'm
with
okay
this.
with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, before we move on, is there anything else that should be, I'm just looking at all that driveway from a distance here. Is there any mitigation or anything that you would attach?
Well, it's quite an uncleared property. They're well under
It is,
their,
okay.
yeah, they're well under the allowed clearing by, I think, more than 10,000 square feet. So, it's well buffered.
Right. Thank you.
Now, when does that get noticed? I mean, one of us could go out and check that the notice is there, or do you do that?
I will do an existing conditions memo to the board before a decision is made that has pictures of the patio and, just the property in general. So it'll go through, the regular decision process after the notice is up. And the board members obviously feel free to visit the property before making a decision, but I will be providing
Go
an
take a
existing
dip.
conditions memo.
Okay,
Okay, do we need a motion?
so then we make a motion in Alan Weinstein at 4 Spread Oak Lane, East Hampton, Suffolk, tax map number 300-91-2-16 to allow an as-built pool patio to remain 25.9 feet from rear yard property line to allow the application to proceed administratively.
No.
What?
It's without a hearing.
Oh, this
Variance
is, I'm
without a
sorry. Go, yeah, variance without a hearing.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Right. Next, we have post-hearing decisions, and the first one up is the retreat. Let me just close this.
Isn't it? Is the retreat first?
The retreat is first,
Yeah,
because,
they updated.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
the retreat on WNR LLC at 544 Wainscott Northwest Road, Wainscott, Suffolk tax map number 300-155-2-13. The size and location is 54,564 square feet at 544 Wainscott Northwest Road, Carver and Plymouth Sands, 3 to 15% slopes in Wainscott. The description is an appeal of a building inspector's determination dated July 3rd, 2023 concerning sections 255(3), 65E1 of the town code, or alternatively, to allow the property to remain 8,032 square feet beyond the clearing limits established in the water recharge overlay district. The relief sought is an appeal of a building inspector's determination dated July 3rd, 2023 concerning sections 255(6), 65E1 of the town code, or alternatively, one variance is required for this application. Applicant seeks to challenge the building inspector's determination that the property requires a variance from 255(3), 65E1 of the town code to comply with clearing regulations of the water recharge overlay district. Alternatively, one variance of 8,032 square feet is required from 255(3), 65 of the town code to allow the property to remain 24,000 square feet of clearing, whereas 15,968 square feet is the maximum allowable and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is A5, residence zone X, flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. This is in my territory, so this is kind of well, let me go run through the statistics first. So the hearing was held on, I got it here,
It was 2 weeks ago.
July 16th, 2024. And it was represented by Rick Whalen of Whalen Filer PLLC. The application is seeking to appeal the building inspector's determination, which determined that prior to a C of O, that the clearing be required to come before us, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they're appealing it. I'm going to address, because I think this is a two-part decision, so I'm going to address the appeal first. In the appeal, they are appealing the building inspector's determination, but as we dug into it on the hearing, there was a letter from, and I got it, I want to read it into the record just so we have it. There's a letter dated June 29, 2023, which to the building department, from Mark Abertson, from the Assistant Environmental Protection Director. And in the letter, he says, writing to the building inspector, and says, I have accepted a plan to revegetate the above mentioned parcel as to a possibly previously approved amount of clearing over the allowed clearing as per 255(3), 65E1. The property owner is planning improvements on the property. The department will give until the building permit expires to implement the plan. The proposed clearing will need to be legalized by the zoning board prior to the closing of the permit and issuing of the certificate of occupancy. And it is this letter that the building inspector relied on issuing the building permit. And he actually quotes this letter and makes it a stipulation of the C of O of the property. With that, and the letter said there was a previously approved amount. So they looked into the history here. That's from the history. So with that evidence in file, I find against the appeal. I find for the building inspector's office. And I think we should, as a board, probably decide whether we agree with that before we go to the next section of this thing. So,
Yeah, so I'm going to be in alignment with you. This was a two-part decision.
Correct.
And looking at the appeal and going down and understanding that there was lots of circumstances, we can go through them a little bit further. But it's the second part of this that tied in. There were a number of C of Os. There was this great history. But when we come right down to the building inspector's decision, and I think the position that the planning department has taken, that mistakes being made in the past don't justify over clearing in a water recharge overlay district. I find with the, along with you, Mr. Chairman, with the building inspector on this, I think that his ruling was in line with the information he had available to him at the time.
right. Okay.
Yeah. So I, following up on that letter that you read into the record, or the memo that was from Mark Abramson, I believe it was established that the applicant had been in that meeting when the guts of that letter were hashed out, and that he had agreed to it. And so obviously he's sort of come back and now wants to appeal it. So I do, at this point, would uphold the building inspector's determination. I do want to go on the record just with a few things. So number one, I made a mistake at the public hearing. I really felt uncomfortable adjudicating, a building inspector's determination when the building inspector, and I knew he couldn't be there, but when we had a hearing without him here, and I wish I had asked to leave the record open, but I think that's a difficult position to be put in. And number two, this notion just going forward of putting the zoning board in a position to approve of legalize clearing after the fact that the building permit is done prior to a C of O. And I hope we can get to a point where the ZBA is asked to legalize things or grant variances before a building permit is issued. So I just want to put that on the record, but I agree with, at this point, with upholding the building inspector's determination.
I also agree with the building inspector's determination. I too have concerns about the process that was taken with this, that it kind of leaves us in an awkward position about this variance. However, it's done, and the applicant did, as was already stated, attend the meeting, agreed with this, that they would do the revegetation before the permit expires. I believe he was in a hurry to get that, but I also see, I think that he got an extension of time on the permit. So I too uphold the building inspector's decision.
Thank you. And just for the record, the Abramson letter was dated June 29, 2023. The building permit was dated 7/23. So it's subsequent to that letter, and it clearly ties to that letter.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that out. So let's look into the clearing issue. Now the second part of this request is to request a variance for the existing clearing. Unfortunately, well, a little bit of history. In I believe it's 84, is when the town initiated the water recharge overlay district regulations in the town and requirements. There were a period when we've had a number of these cases before us in the last few years where the the clearing regulations were not being enforced by the building department. In this instance, even the building itself exceeded the clearing, the size of the building exceeded the clearing. And so that's a clear overlook on the town, and that's unfortunate. But we have to deal with that. It's better today. They're on it like a hawk today. So,
So can you say that again, that the amount of building that happened exceeded?
yeah, I think
I
that
just wanted to clarify what you said.
the coverage
The lot
exceeded,
coverage.
the lot coverage exceeded, the building permit exceeded the clearing limits at the time.
Right.
Then they came back to us for additional structures, and they were granted that, and they were granted a C of O based on that. Subsequently to that, I believe they started to do some work and do some clearing, which there was a stop work order. They have since, I think, that represented 3,000 and some square feet of clearing, which they have subsequently revegetated. They're seeking to receive a variance up to 24,000 square feet, but during the hearing, the applicant is proposing to reduce that. And just want to make a note, in the previous applications that we have, and it's also the planning department's viewpoint, that in these situations, we do our best to try to bring the clearing into, but it's almost impossible to bring it into compliance. And that is so with the previous cases that we've had. In this case, the applicant has come before us and has proposed to reduce that clearing down to 20,100 square feet. So with that, I find that that is adequate mitigation for what happens. Again, I'm going to reiterate, this is an unfortunate situation that we're just stuck with this. But I find that the mitigation here, and to bring it down to 20,100 square feet, and that is shown on the Dewey's planting plan of July 9th, 2024. So with that, I would approve this application with that condition that they revegetate to 20,100.
So the variance we're giving is 3,900.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. No, the other way around. They're revegetating 3,900.
So the variance
No,
is,
they've revegetated 3,000. Yeah, 3,900 from presently. That's right. Something like that.
so it's the variance amount is the difference between 20,100 and what was the number, 15,000?
16,000, just about it.
Right.
Just under 16.
It was just under 16,000 that was allowable, that is permitted under water recharge overlay, right? That's the variance we're permitting.
Yeah, I'll go next. I'll just say that, you don't mind me?
Go for it.
I'll go next. I just say that I'm in line with your thinking on this. I think that it's pretty unfortunate that it went through 1986, 1987, 1990. Various times came in front of the building department. 2 C of Os were issued. I think in defense of anyone buying a property, we very regularly point out that you should be aware of whatever legal restrictions might be associated with there. It's environmental potential restrictions. Don't come in front of us and say you were ignorant. In this case, I think that you have this current owner looks and has a series of documents that justified what went on the property. Now, for us to look back and do the very best thing we can for the environment, we still could rule that we want to see more happen. I think that they voluntarily came up with this number of revegetating 3,900 square feet that takes it down to the 20,100 feet that the chair mentioned. When we asked the planner at the time what was possible, that's about what is possible on the given site, especially since it was already pointed out by the chair that this site had been cleared beyond what would have been legally allowed. So the lot coverage as it existed and had been approved initially was already beyond what could have possibly brought it back to an adequate amount of vegetation. So I think when we're asked to look at these, and they are difficult ones, and we've had a few of them in front of us because of this conflict that's happened, the bottom line becomes, what can we do that's the very best thing for the lot? I think with the offer of the 3,900 square foot of revegetation and the effort that was made on them to try to make something happen, getting that down to 20,100 square feet is the maximum we can ask them to do, and they're willing to do it. So I'm willing to approve this variance as well.
I agree. It is
Reluctantly,
unfortunate.
I know.
What? Yes, I do agree reluctantly, but okay, maybe say it. However, it is disturbing, but as Tyler testified at the hearing, anything beyond this amount of revegetation would take them into having to remove some structures. That would all have been nice before some of those structures were built, but the agent also at the hearing said that all these structures that went in with this permit were already over cleared areas. So, yes, I too agreeing to the variance and the final clearing of 3,900
Thank you, Jane.
Yes, I generally agree with board members. I think what's even more frustrating, aside from the number of iterations where the overdevelopment relative and clearing has perpetuated, we learned at the public hearing that this building permit that was issued allowed, I know it was in cleared areas, but expansion of well over another 3,000 feet of structure, where that area could have also, probably increased the re-veg, so that would be below 20,100, but it's there, so there's nothing we can do. I would like to, if possible, just condition this on, number one, maybe it is already there, but a covenant that says, no long chemicals, no fertilizers, whatever. I think there's some pretty standard language around water recharge overlay, but I want to make sure that's in there. And then if I may, we heard the applicant, when he spoke on his own behalf, he talked a lot about bushes, but I don't know. I mean, I know that's the existing re-veg that he's saying he's already done, right? And is it, I don't know, was it junipers or cedars or something? But I don't know if it's possible, but I'm assuming this is sort of like a white pine type of neighborhood. And so I'll ask Morgan, is there a re-veg plan in place? And then the next one that's going to be developed for the additional that is really, compatible and varied enough to go with the character of the vegetation that exists naturally in that area.
Well, we normally.
So is there a re-veg plan we can condition on? Yeah, but I wanted to say, I feel like at this point, a really solid revegetation plan that's very matches to the natural state of that area should be a condition to the extent it's possible.
But this is the re-veg plan that was submitted by Dewey's Planning, right? That Mark had approved?
Yeah, we got that in the follow-up. That came with the follow-up letter we got from Katie Osecki.
But that was for the
That's not
first.
related to what Mark approved. That's related that's related to now, what they're.
That's what they're
plan that
proposing.
says it will result in 20,100.
Oh, this is the new, okay.
The new one, yeah.
New one.
Yeah.
So what, I mean,
And I don't know, Morgan, do you guys review this, or is it up to Mark?
bushes. I don't know what the type of bushes are relative to.
Dewey's letter says bushes.
I know. But you know what I'm saying? It's just, I feel like this is a particular type of woodland landscape, and whatever is put in there should be appropriate to that natural environment and habitat to the extent possible.
Yeah, so I'm going to drag the aerial over here because this is taken in usually around March, late winter. And you can kind of, once it loads, you can kind of get a sense of what the canopy is in this area. There's actually not a ton of evergreens.
Sorry?
You can get a sense of the canopy in this area from there. I haven't been on the property, so I cannot speak to.
I know, I didn't go to see it. Yeah.
But this is just an assessment based on the aerial.
Where's the
You can tell there's not a ton of evergreens actually. So looking at I know you referenced maybe there was like a white pine forest or something over here that doesn't.
I don't know if it's oak, white pine.
Yeah,
like
it's probably oak mostly. But again, this is totally going off of what the aerial. So,
Right.
And looking at the re-veg plan.
But to say there's an accepted standard for water recharge in the planning department, is there not?
Yes. And, looking at the species list, they are using species that are
I
needed.
mean, I don't think I want to get into the position of trying to redefine that.
Mhm.
Well, has this been approved yet? This one officially approved? That's all.
No, but I think we make it contingent on approval.
Right. Okay, I'm just,
We traditionally do.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I mean, I just think oaks should replace oaks, pines should replace pine, as opposed to, I'm not sure what, anyway, I'll leave it at that.
I don't
This is,
disagree with that
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah,
And I
I'll
think
leave
we
it at
had,
that.
we had a application prior to this where we were talking about white pines. There was a discussion about white pines and all that stuff. I'm comfortable leaving it up to the planning department to assess that.
okay.
okay. So it requires the planning department.
Right.
And by the way, I just misspoke. It wasn't a Katie Oseki letter. It was another letter. that
Shannon,
followed.
Shannon.
Shannon.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's from a different Hiller, but it was the follow-up letter that included this drawing.
Excuse me 1 second, ZBA. Member Berger, can you please bring your microphone closer to you? Thank you.
Is that better?
Much.
Okay.
Very good. Next, we good, council?
Yeah.
Thank you. Next, we have Stuart Leach and Anna Mijek.
Meach.
That's 71 Jacqueline Drive, Amagansett, Suffolk, Mass. Number 300-174-2-32. Size and location is 17,500 square feet at 71 Jacqueline Drive, Beach, Hampton, Section 5, Block 22, lots 10 through 16, map number 1763 in Amagansett. The description is to construct a 1,012 square foot swimming pool with pool fencing, pool equipment, 669 square feet of decking, air conditioning units, new stairs, and an upgraded sanitary system to allow an existing approximately 290 square foot of gravel area and stone walkways to remove a portion of the existing driveway and AC units, and to clear approximately 2,453 square feet of vegetation on a parcel of land containing wetlands, dune land, and beach vegetation. Relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 9 variances are required for this application. Variances of 95.5 feet, 79.5 feet, 63.5 feet, 62 feet, 42 feet, 28 feet, 21 feet, and 20 feet are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to allow the proposed walkway to remain 4.5 feet, steps to be constructed 20.5 feet, gravel area to remain 36.5 feet, decking to be constructed 38 feet, AC units 58 feet, pool fencing 72 feet, swimming pool 79 feet, and pool equipment 80 feet from freshwater wetlands, respectively, where 100-foot setbacks are required. 1 variance of 45.5 feet from 255-430 of the Town Code is required to allow the existing clearing to remain 4.5 feet from freshwater wetlands, where a 50-foot setback is required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, 8E flood zone, elevation 10, and the secret class is type 2. And this is in Member Maring's.
It is. And I think when you were reading the details, I think you said it was 1,012 square foot swimming pool. So in the agenda, it was noted that 112 square feet swimming pool, and actually what they came in with at the public hearing, it was corrected before the public hearing to, we're looking at a swimming pool of 91 square feet. So I just wanted to put that out there, which we'll come back to the swimming pool. Okay, the public hearing was held on June 4th, 2024. And with respect to the lot itself, the lot size is 17,550 square feet, but excluding the wetlands, which are significant, comprise about 22.4% of the property overall. The code area is 13,478 square feet. The wetlands on this property are pretty pristine, and they extend also on the property to the south and to the west. And as you know, the planning department spoke to the importance of this wetlands as part of our larger system, the benefits to ecosystem diversity, wildlife habitat, but in particular, these wetlands are becoming even more important in this neighborhood for flood attenuation as more rain, rising groundwater, et cetera. And of course, the wetlands, along with dune topography, are the two sort of defining natural resources elements that characterize, Beach Hampton overall. And this lot is unusual. A lot of times you see lots that have wetland or dunescape. This is a lot that originally has both. The property was acquired by the applicants in December of 2020 in the teeth of the COVID pandemic. The application, as noticed for public hearing, was requesting 9 natural resources related variances, 6 related to the addition of proposed new structures, and 3 of those variances related to the legalizing of structures and actions that had been taken by the current owners, the applicant, unfortunately, without the benefit of required review and proper permitting. I won't go through all of them again here, but the variances range from 21 feet variance for the construction of the plunge pool up to a 95.5 foot variance for a gravel walkway. Okay. With respect to the application, the applicant was represented by Lori Wiltshire of Land Planning Services. The applicant, Mr. Stuart Leach, offered comments on his own behalf. The planning department was represented by Tyler Borsak. And I have my notes here on the dates of the plans, and the TAM was dated April 18th, 2024. We were working off a survey during the public hearing dated 9/29/2023. At the end of the hearing, the applicant's agent also distributed another survey dated 6/1/2024. And that had removed, I think that just showed removing some of the stepping stone walkway. 3 emails were collected by the applicant from other residents of Jacqueline Drive expressing generalized support and no objections to the application. There was one letter of concern from maybe not I don't know if it was direct neighbor, but someone in the neighborhood. But the objection seemed to, there was a bit confusion because they seemed to think that wetlands were being removed as opposed to are deciding on wetland setback variances. Before the close of the public hearing, the applicant's agent, Ms. Wiltshire, asked that the board leave the record open for 30 days in order to, 1, consider maybe removing some other gravel areas, 2, to make clear and do calculations with respect to what will be revegetated overall on the property, and 3, this was a significant quote. The applicant's agent said, "I believe and I am going to check with the engineers that we can actually slide the sanitary north and put it under the driveway. I'm almost positive," unquote. The board accommodated that request, and we left the hearing open until July 9th. And on June 25th, the applicant submitted to the record an updated survey dated 6/19/2024 that indeed showed removal of some of the illegal gravel walk and the irregular stone walk and another existing gravel area on the west side of the house. And as a result, that adds an additional 640 square feet of revegetation. And so that removes 3 of the 9 variances that were requested in the application. I would say there was no narrative provided about why they did not come back with a shift in the position of the septic system, and we had a lot of discussion at the meeting about where was the optimal, positioning of the deck. So I walked away a little confused and a bit disappointed that didn't happen, but it is what it is. The total clearing proposed on the lot is now to be 5,227 versus the current conditions of 5,942. So that's a reduction of 12%. Building coverage is remaining at 1,942 square feet. Total coverage, I thought total coverage was going down. I have increases. I think total coverage decreases from 4,000. No, sorry, total coverage increases from 4,959 from 4,202, which is an expansion of 18%. And total clearing is now proposed to be 5,227 square feet, a 12% reduction overall from current conditions. Okay, so turning now to decisions about the variances and requests. So first of all, will approve the construction of the stairs that are asked for, that go from the deck on top of the deck on the south up to the roof deck. On paper, this is probably the most significant substantial variance left in the application at almost an 80-foot variance to wetland setback. However, it's being built on top of existing decking. There's the roof deck already exists, and I don't see that this creates any increased intensity of use or any environmental impact. So I'm approving that. All right, let me talk about my thinking with respect to the pool. I am willing and I will approve the plunge pool in and of itself. And for these reasons, it's a moderate size at 91 square feet. The prefab nature of the structure, I think most of it will be above grade. It won't require significant excavation. It can be installed without a lot of disturbance, and it will be placed in an area that is currently part of the gravel driveway. And as it was described to us, no chemicals or chlorine is used that might somehow make its way into the wetlands. The wetland setback requested for this pool is 21 feet, which is just below the threshold of what this board generally considers to be substantial. And I don't think there's any other position on the property that would not require wetland setback variances while still complying with lot line setback requirements. Though we say it a lot on this board, a pool is an amenity, not a need or a right, though I do understand it creates a significant benefit, and when combined with the mitigation proposed, I do not see undue environmental degradation being created. And at the end of the day, the mitigation is a upgraded septic system, which I think is important relative to what's in the ground right now, and a very significant scenic easement placed over the wetlands. And in a sense, the pool itself is the nexus to achieving those environmental improvements on the property. The chair questioned Tyler Borsak, what would be the best position of the septic system. He did say it would be on the north side of the property, and did agree that the pool is probably sort of getting in the way of it being put there. But again, because the nexus to the septic system is the pool, I'm willing to strike that balance in my decision. Okay, with respect to the proposed decking, there's a proposal to add an additional 668 square feet of new decking on the north and west side of the house, and that requires a 62-foot wetland setback variance. And this, for me, is where the application stretches further away from meeting NRSP and variance standard. As Tyler had noted, the north side of the existing residence is the most reasonable location for additional improvements, and I'm quoting him, but the ZBA should discuss if any additional improvements are appropriate on such a constrained and already significantly improved parcel. It's reasonable to consider the parcel is already improved beyond the constraints, and any increase in development should be considered if they're too much. So I do believe adding another 668 square feet of new decking, I don't think the applicant established compelling need for that, given that there's a lot of other decking on the property, and by putting all that decking in, it actually sprawls, the repositioning of the AC units, the pool equipment. So this is what I want to propose. That would leave a pool potentially with no decking around it, which we've seen some other applications. We just had one where applicants removed decking altogether. So I will ask council, we can, how to approach the idea that, I'd be willing to approve a reasonable and, sort of minimum necessary amount of decking. But to me, the 668 square feet all in does not meet the standards. Okay, and in terms of conditions, we, Mr. Chair, we all invoked the 2017 determination. This property by a prior owner was in front of the board for, I think, an NRSP and some variances. And there are a number of conditions that were very clearly stated in that determination, and they do not seem to have been upheld. Something has been going wrong on this property. Some of it started, I think, before the applicant bought the property, but beyond that, there's been more clearing, and there's been clearing right up to the wetlands. There's been thinning to a lot of, places. So if this application is approved, I want to come back and make sure that in the conditions of approval, it will be really clear to reestablish those conditions. And then the last thing is I would like to see, actually, just as a bit more mitigation, I'd like to, because there's been incursion around these wetlands, and the planning department was clear that the buffer around is not very substantial. So if I would like to suggest that the wetland scenic easement continues to see it stops well before you get to the property line on Jacqueline. So I'd love to see it move out to there to provide more buffer, and then also extend a bit more to the north. But again, I want to leave it to the other board members to see where they are, and then if we come back with conditions. That's where I am.
Okay. All right, there was a lot to process there.
What else is new with me?
I know.
Speech Hampton.
Let me go right to the bottom line. As far as the decking by the pool, I don't, it's a lot of decking, but the decking I have a problem with is the decking on the west side, where the other gravel is going to be removed in that whole area. That's 38 feet from the wetlands, and I would like to not approve that part, but I don't know if that's separately listed. I believe it is separately listed.
The 668 is this whole amount.
Yeah, so I don't like this part of it.
Mhm.
And the pool is a plunge pool, so isn't that going to be above ground? Is that above
Not
ground?
necessarily.
No, not necessarily? Oh,
There was a
okay.
diagram
I
there's a
think the
diagram
definition
here.
of a plunge pool is
It's
a
right here.
prefabricated pool. They-
Yeah.
Right.
They still dig a
Which-
hole, I think you can.
Here's-
Oh, yeah,
It can
okay.
be on the above ground, or it can be in.
I think this one is partially above ground, not sure, but
Well, that'll be partially above.
yeah.
Ground,
Right.
yeah.
So you need some sort of
Okay, so-
coping or some decking
Yes, I'd
around
like to
it to make it
minimize it,
safe and
but
stuff, but I'd like to, yeah.
Yeah, but I am not in favor of this part of the decking that comes all the way down to the 38 feet from the wetlands on the west side of the house. Other than that, I think with the survey that we received on June 25th, 2024, they did note all the additional gravel that would be removed and revegetated, getting us to the totals already mentioned, the 5226, I think, on reveg or clearing for 227. So I am okay with them taking all that out and revegetating it. The sanitary, as discussed, they talked about moving it further north, and we never got an answer on that. And pools, which I'm not a big fan of, particularly in this area of the town. Since this is a 91 square foot pool, I am willing to approve this. And I think with the revegetation, it does meet the standards. But like Member Mearing, when I was looking at this, Tyler had stated about the buffer, and this, as far as the scenic easement, extending the scenic easement, he said, unless we can get a better buffer, he didn't really see, it's not going to be as robust a protection. So I'm wondering where we could get additional buffer out of this. Yeah, that whole area is saying the same thing, going up to Jacqueline Drive and this whole area up here by the driveway. You talked about the 2017 thing, and what happened was, at that time, this board gave huge variance, but the deck that needed to be replaced was, I think, 3 feet from the wetlands, and the new deck was made 9 feet from the wetlands, so it was an improvement, and the steps. And then subsequent to that is when the applicant that owned the house at the time did interior renovations, and they took the U-shaped driveway and just totally flattened it out, took everything off illegally. I would like to and if you look at the aerials from that time, you could see that this whole area in front of the house on the Jacqueline Road side, except for this one part of the driveway today, as it is today, was pretty well vegetated, and to the northern property line and the south. So I do agree that we should increase the buffer in those areas. I don't know, do we need to know a number or just to define it? But
Saying increasing it to the east, is that when we're looking down at the
increasing it,
wetland area?
I mean, where these, from where the septic is going to be on the south and east side, and some more on the west.
Yeah, I think
also, we can go up also.
Like Morgan,
on
if you
that.
were to put the cursor kind of up where that broken walkway is coming out, kind of fade it that would just give more protection, I think. But I guess my other question is, if you, I don't know how far it could go, but it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sand in that area, obviously, and there's also no mention on any survey that bocce court, but there's a bocce court that was in the photos.
It's being removed to the gravel area.
They're removing that
They
court.
took it out. They took it out after the public hearing. Yeah.
There's a lot of that is sand and beach. I guess we would need beach vegetation up there. But I think considering how constrained this property is and how the lot coverage is increasing by about 700 square feet or more, 750, that we should get as maximum buffer that we can out of this and protect the wetlands further. I do think with the mitigation and the IA system and the small pool that I think it does meet the NRSP standards, but with the additional buffering and revegetation to be added.
Thank you, Ed. Yeah, I'll follow Member Mearing's lead and go item by item here. I'm agreeing to approve the stairs for the same reason she mentioned. The plunge pool is 91 square feet, and it was mentioned during the hearing that it would be put in by a crane. It's a one-piece item, so we're not looking for construction in that area. We're looking for installation. That was a concern by members of the board, and I think the planning department, what kind of collateral damage might happen during construction. I think in this technique, it's to the minimum. Reference to the deck around the pool, I think once you approve the pool, we know there'll be a trod pond area there. You can ask yourself, is the deck a bigger problem than not having the restrictions the deck might provide in a place to naturally recreate? We ask ourselves sometimes, when we don't give a walkway, will a different walkway be established? I'm not as bothered by, I'm agreeing with Member Mearing with the deck, I'm not as bothered by as Member Berger was. I think that if we're approving this as a package, that other portion of the deck that sits to the west just connects the main part of the house back to that portion of the recreational area. So I would go with it. I do think that the 50 to 100 square foot, I think it is, easement is a factor here over the wetlands. And I think that the real exchange here is to talk about the septic system. The IS system, I don't believe could have moved north because we're not going to be putting the galleys or any of those drainage portions under Hardin driveway. And I think probably, I'm not speaking for them, but if you look at this practically, reorienting reorient this more significantly under the gravel driveway probably was not practical. It was mentioned by them, they would look into it. We don't see a reflection of it here. I think that, and it was brought up, I think, effectively by the chair at the hearing, that it's our job to respect the decisions and the determinations of earlier boards and the time they put into it and the reasons they reach a decision. We know what we do to think these things through and how we try to restrict it. I will say that that weighed heavily on my mind for an almost outright denial on this, because I think that it is something we have to consider. However, I do think at that time, it might not have been as clearly an option that would be in the future that we would have an opportunity to do something as significant as an IA system in this location. The IA systems are not a cure-all. They're not an answer for every application. We know that. But when we see that we can make an upgrade that definitely is going to improve, and we have groundwater to consider here, I think that it is a positive, and I think it's one that sways my decision towards approving the application. I'm not in disagreement with the other board members that everything that can be done to create a buffer, but I would be willing to say that I would approve this upon contingent on approval by our planners, planning department, on a re-veg plan that does the maximum to protect that area rather than to speculate what's possible. And I think if they work in concert with the applicant, they in the past this has worked well, I think they'll come up with something. So, Mr. Chairman, I am willing to approve this. I do think it, given the conditions here, given the way in which the application was modified, and some of the pre-existing things that we don't like about the site have been corrected, and some were not the responsibility of this particular individual who now owns it, I am willing to approve this application.
Thank you. Man, I'm going to take a totally different tack on this, and I'm going to deny this application in entirety, and that's based on the importance of the 2017 ZBA determination and the deliberation and the care that decision undertook, and it's woven throughout the decision, the concern for clearing and to control clearing. There's even a shed that's being removed and revegetated, and they're removing structures. Also, the deck that they were reconfiguring is essentially a rebuild in kind deck, but they reconfigured it to bring the deck further away from the wetlands. Now we're adding structures. I think that, and I also think that for us to determine that it's not feasible to put a septic system to the north is not up for us to decide. I don't think there was enough in the applicant's efforts to decide or to tell us that whether it's feasible or not. Well, I don't think we can make that determination that it is not even feasible to do that. I think the NRSP, I think if there is a possibility that the septic system could have been put to the north, that does not, as the planning department has suggested as well, does not meet the standards for an NRSP on this property. I think the sensitivity of this property is such. I think it was reviewed in 2017, and I think this application goes beyond the concerns that decision took. So I'm going to deny this application. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So where are we now?
Where are we? Is there a recap?
So we would be, so we have a full denial,
And
and I have an approval but a denial of the decking. Terry,
Mine was an approval.
you're a full approval, right? And Terry was denying part of the decking. So that's 3 potentially in favor of no decking or limited decking. I don't know how this is gonna play out.
Well, and do we need to address the additional buffer we want and amount?
We go back to the decking first.
Yeah.
Terry, what portion of the decking were you denying?
Well, the decking, the variance, it's 38 feet on the west side toward the south. It's 38 feet from the wetland. I think it should come all the way back up to just some decking around the pool.
Right.
But minimal decking around the pool.
Because, right.
And then that would change the variance for the decking also, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would sharply improve the setback for the decking, and also we also have variances that were requested to approve for the pool equipment itself, the movement of the AC units. It potentially allows that all to be consolidated and, further from the wetlands, but.
So I would like to see it go back up to that line there at the end of the house, and then you could have the pool equipment and you could have the pool.
It wasn't offered as two separate variances.
Well, the
The
variance
decking
is
is its own
listed as, it was listed as one big deck.
Yeah.
It's a 62-foot
Saying you're
variance
denying
for 668
So I
square
guess I'm
feet of
denying the
decking.
whole deck then. Yeah. Can't deny.
I'm asking as much.
Yeah,
tell me
no,
what
I
you
know, I
allow
know.
Part of what the variance is, you're not cutting the variance in half. If you're not approving the deck, you're not approving the deck.
Okay, and I'm not approving that deck.
Okay, so
Variance
three
is substantial.
people not approving the deck.
Is it? No,
Yeah, well, Royce denied the whole application.
yeah, so it's two. You denying the deck?
I said the deck was a step too far.
Okay.
And then what do we want to say on the easement and the buffer council planning?
I mean, Tyler stated that increasing the easement really wouldn't give us anything unless we get a better buffer. So I don't know about asking for an increased easement, but I would like additional buffer.
But you got the structure right up to the,
Well, over here, on this side,
Oh, yeah, you
on
can
the
go, you
east
can go
side.
out to
did
the,
we,
Yeah.
to the road.
so when we discuss
And then
these things,
go
when
up
we
the
discuss
west
these
side.
buffers, did we bring it up in the hearing to
Yeah.
discuss it?
Well, we were waiting because we left the
But it should
record
be a map.
open for additional revegetation from the applicant.
Did they address it?
I mean, it's addressed in the
They
TAM,
took out
right?
all these things, which they were not taking all out.
I mean, it's addressed in the TAM, so it was in the, and Tyler addressed that he felt that the limited buffer undermines the robustness of the scenic easement. So I don't know, is that enough that it was in the public hearing to condition it on more? We've conditioned other approvals on increasing easements or buffers. No?
Conceptually, I
Your
think
thought,
it's,
was your counsel,
yeah. I mean, I think it's okay for those reasons stated that it was raised at the hearing and it's in the TAM. But I'm concerned about how we're defining it or delineating it without a sketch that's already in the record, or at least for me to be able to understand and describe it. And I actually am having personally just a little bit of a issue understanding the difference between the scenic easement and then the buffer off of the scenic easement.
I get confused.
What's the
as well.
difference?
Yeah.
I mean, besides the easement has to be accepted by the town and runs with the land, what's the buffer then?
I mean, the other way to do it,
Buffer between the structures and the wetlands, the protection, the
really have no
buffer
room
to the
there.
wetlands.
what room do you have?
East we do.
we should do. I mean, the other way to do it is to have a re-veg plan that comports with the re-veg character that was described in the 2017 determination, as well as there were notes on the approved re-veg plan at the time. And it's more specific about woody mix that are very specific to the wetland habitat, to the dune land. I mean, that's another way to do it, is just, ask for to be conditioned on a robust re-veg plan that meets what 2017 was asking for.
I don't know how we can, I don't understand that stretch, how we can stretch that, how we can take a 2017 and try to massage a hybrid out of it.
Well,
So I'm struggling with that.
but it's not a hybrid. I mean, we did it with the with an application on Atlantic Avenue. It's to say, the 2017 conditions of approval have not been upheld, and we as conditions of this approval, we should make sure that it's revegetated to what was asked for then and to continue to be upheld.
But just by the very nature of the application, the clearing is going to be greater.
Well, I understand that, but
It's kind of hard.
no, actually, the clearing is going down.
No, clearing is increasing.
Hard to approve
It's going down.
an application, then refer back to 217, which
Yeah,
was,
the
as you
clearing
point
in
out, Chair, was
27,
opposed to any expansion. 2017. I don't know that at a work session, we can be drawing these lines. I'm willing to say that any re-veg plan should come up to the satisfaction of the planning department. And if they then in conference come up with something better, but I don't know how we redraw at this stage. I think when we redraw at a hearing, we give the applicant an opportunity to change their approach. But I don't know how we do that now.
One of the things I just will share with the board, because I was just asking Morgan to clarify, because I can see the text closely because where I'm sitting.
Uh-huh.
So do you see where the writing is existing irregular stone walk to be removed and revegetated?
Mhm.
Existing gravel walk to be removed and revegetated. So I'm trying to understand where it shows that there's revegetation between right up to the structures. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding where there is space besides I see down the east side, this sliver between the property line.
on the east side, yeah.
So if it's that, without having to redraw everything, I feel comfortable in the language, if that's what the board is asking, to extend the line east to meet the property line?
To meet the property
Yeah,
line?
I mean, they still have to submit a re-veg plan,
Right.
right?
We don't have a
Specifically in
re-veg
those
plan for them.
areas noted. So that would be conditioned. I'm okay with that, but I would like some additional revegetation on the east side.
I mean, they've cleared right up basically into that wetland. They've thinned that whole, from where that walkway is, that gravel walkway, really significantly along the roadside. I'm not talking in the right of way too, but, on the property. So, I mean, I think, Mr. Chair, you were very strong on this in the public hearing, right? We have, bare sand and clumps of beach grass that, it seems it's dune-ish because it's sandy, but I think as you put it, it's the character of the dune land has really been stripped away, and the wetland vegetation, it's not meant to be just beach grass, right? I mean, that was part of the 2017 condition, that it should be robust, woody. I think there's a notation. What's the notation on here? Landscaping should be native and appropriate to habitat. But anyway, I won't.
Well, it would be
belabor
conditioned on the approval
but
of the
the condition
planning
it, right.
department
And then-
anyway. Yeah.
Is it
so-
possible to have a condition that they remove irrigation from proximity to wetlands? Because they have all the dune land right up to the wetlands irrigated, and that changes dune land into something else. So I don't know if we can make that a condition. That's all I've got.
You did have a picture of a hose.
There's hoses everywhere on this property.
So you're suggesting to re-veg that eastern side up to the, what is that, let me focus.
Well, they show this is going to be 146 re-veg, so yeah, bring it
Right, to the property line.
down. Now,
Okay.
Okay.
in 2017, the clearing was 6490, and this is coming down to 5226, so it's an
You're gonna take it all the way up to the walk?
you know. Well, they're taking the
Walk is
walk
gone.
out.
The walk is coming out.
The walk's
The
going
walk's
out.
going out.
So where you taking it? All the way up?
Well, I don't know,
They're
because
going to
there's dry wells.
revegetate here, but I'd like that to come down here, which looks like it would be more than 146 square feet.
The one thing I also just want to ask the board to look at, since we're talking about that specific area, I think that those like little sort of curly Q lines, that's the limit of clearing, I think. So
Where the approximate location of the water line is?
I'm like the area we're talking about, the existing gravel walk to be removed.
Way up there.
South of that, aren't those the clearing limits? Those, this
have-
curly Q line?
Yeah, I get confused. I mean, it's still not clear. I mean, it's really, up to where the sanitary system is, right? This property should be restored and revegetated. Not restored, but like revegetated. And I can't tell if that's part. I mean, you've got these dry wells there, so I don't know how much you can revegetate on top of dry wells. It's not my expertise, but obviously on the sanitary system, it gets revegetated with like beach grass only, right? Because that's all you can do. But you know what I'm saying? I guess we'll leave it to the planning department to approve
Do you think, okay, in the TAM,
Find a border, I guess.
Let's wrap this up.
in the TAM, it says a revegetation plan, including the species size and spacing consisting of a majority of woody vegetation,
Right.
shall be submitted and approved. Do you want me to expand upon that language and
Yeah,
do
no
some
ornamentals, all that kind of stuff, yeah.
Say that again?
No ornamentals.
Okay. And no
Irrigation.
irrigation.
Yep.
Is this, Terry, you agree here? Ed, you agree?
Yes,
Okay.
you're asking me.
So the big question, for me, is the east side where it says 146 square feet revegetation. I think they need to
That was
bring
just
that
for the,
down.
that was the
That was
146.
just for the gravel walk.
Gravel walk.
Like to extend that revegetation down.
Okay, I think we're okay, actually, as long as the board, so we're back to saying that the proposed scenic easement in the location shown on the survey is okay,
Yeah.
but that the re-veg, they need to just do a very robust
Right.
re-veg over everything, basically, including the scenic easement, including what's proposed as revegetated, and make sure that that includes everything south and east, basically this whole entire side.
Right.
I'm fine, I'll write it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh,
So next we have Richard and Michelle Feldman at 52 Maidstone Drive in Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-174-6-16. And the size of location is 6,000 square feet at 52 Maidstone Drive, Beach Hampton, Section 1, lots 11 through 13, Block 7, map number 1203, Amagansett. The description is to remove existing decking, hot tub, walkways, shed, outdoor shower, driveway, patio, and AC units, and to construct approximately 655 square feet of first and second story additions, a new stone driveway, walkways, outdoor shower with changing room, 373 square feet of patio, 144 square feet of porch, AC unit, and an upgraded sanitary system with retaining wall on a parcel of land containing freshwater wetlands and outside the town's pyramid regulations. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 55-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 7 variances are required for this application. 1 variance of 5 feet is required from 55-430 of the Town Code to construct the proposed porch 95 feet from freshwater wetlands where a 100-foot setback is required. 4 variances of approximately 6.5 feet, 5.8 feet, 1.3 feet, and 1 feet are required from 255-1172D of the Town Code to allow the proposed residence to extend 6.5 feet, 5.8 feet, 1.3 feet, and 1 feet beyond the pyramid regulations along the eastern, southern, northern, and western property lines, respectively. 1 variance of 1.5 feet is required from 255-1172C and 255-1110 of the Town Code to allow the residents to have a maximum height of 31.5 feet above grade, where 30 feet is the maximum allowable. 1 variance of 156 square feet from 255-1110 of the Town Code is required to increase the lot. Variance from 156 square feet from 255-1110 of the Town Code is required to increase upside that coverage to 1,356 square feet, where 1,200 square feet is the maximum allowable, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, AE flood zone, elevation 10, and the secret class is type 2.
This is mine.
And once again,
Yep.
Member Mary.
Right, so we're gonna move east, but we're still remaining in Beach Hampton, as I had shown in my field report. This is the part of Beach Hampton that is defined by very narrow dirt roads. Maidstone Drive is one of those. The public hearing was held just a few weeks ago on July 16th, 2024. Now, there was a prior version of this application that was seeking material height variance, a lot coverage variance, as well as 3 or 4 very substantial pyramid variances. Those are noted still in the agenda items that Mr. Chair just read out in terms of the relief sought. So this application was modified in response to the TAM coming into the public hearing. I just want to say that I'm looking at this application as presented at the public hearing on its own merits relative to the code, and I am not taking it into consideration about how this version of the application compared to the original submission of the application. The applicant was represented by Alex Balsam of Balsam, Schmid, and Huber. Chris DeSuno, the architect, was at the hearing and also spoke. The owners, applicants, the Feldmans were present at the hearing, and Mr. Feldman did speak on his own behalf as part of the public hearing. The Feldmans acquired the house, I believe, in late 2021, I think December 2021, although I think they indicated that they had been renting the property for a few years prior. With respect to the documents, the survey that we worked off of, and don't believe has been updated since then, is the East End Land Survey dated May 29th, 2024. The plans dated May 30th, 2024 were also, because there are a number of different sets of plans in the public hearing file. Tyler Borsak represented the planning department, and his TAM was dated May 3rd, 2024. With respect to public participation, 2 people who live together at the house directly to the north did call in, and they had concerns about the heights of the retaining walls that relate to the septic system. And I think we spent a lot of time clarifying how the heights relative to grade fade away as you get to the house. No one else participated in person at the hearing, but in the record, the applicant's agent collected signatures on basically like a form letter of about 5 or 6 residents of Maidstone with generalized commentary in support of the project, or at least expressing no objections. And just on the neighborhood character context, Maidstone is a tight-knit community block. the Feldmans made clear at the hearing how much they love being there, how much they love the neighborhood. And of course, they stressed that, the house needs significant updating and renovation to the integrity of the structure and the functionality of the house and to meet minimum FEMA elevations. They also noted as part of their narrative that they want to be able to accommodate their grown married son visiting or living in the house, and then potentially one day they would like to accommodate grandchildren. With respect to the lot area, this is a 6,000 square foot parcel. As my fellow board members know, Beach Hampton is filled with substandard lots relative to the B residence zone in very small lots. This lot is 70% substandard, pre-existing, but substandard to the B residence zone minimum. And it is overall among not a large number of absolute, small lots, less than 7,500 square feet. The substandard size lot allows them to reduce side yard setbacks. And then with respect to the development proposed, the current house, the current GFA in total is 1,323 square feet. The first floor is 1,068 square feet, and the second story is 255 square feet. The house as it exists is a 4-bedroom house that includes the 255 square feet, what's referred to as a sleeping loft, and it also has 3 bathrooms. The height of the current house I was not able to establish, but because of the way the second story currently slopes up from the road to the back, this house presents to the road as looks like a small 1-story cottage, very much in keeping with the historic character and ongoing land use patterns of this neighborhood. The new house proposed, the first floor will expand by just 79 square feet, as they're sort of squaring off some corners. The big change comes on the second story. The new GFA of the second story will be 836 square feet. So that puts the house GFA total at 1,983 square feet, and that is just 10% shy of maximum allowable on a lot this size under our code at 2,200 square feet. But that, would be obviously for a lot, that's for any lot, not necessarily one that includes constraints and natural resources. The house will also, even though they're no longer going for a height variance, it will max out at height and max out at the allowable pyramid, and in some place small part in the front, and about 4 feet. I think there's a 4-foot variance now on one side of the house relative to pyramid. The lot is, per code, 100% cleared. The code allows all lots less than 10,000 square feet to be cleared at 100%. There will be an upgraded septic system. I don't think that septic system is mitigation. I think it was required given the increase in the size of the house and probably the value of all the work. But as we talked about at length in the hearing, to accommodate this new septic system because of groundwater, a significant regrading and retaining wall structure has to be created. Its impact is more on the rear and the sides, but I think, as was discussed, this will change the character of this lot significantly. We learned that the applicant is going for a variance, I think from the Department of Health, that has not been received to date. This overall area is prone to flooding, increasing flooding intensity. Groundwater is rising, and of course this whole area is pretty much, if you're not on top of a dune, fairly low elevations. The building coverage at 1,200 square feet, the building coverage expands. The current building coverage is 1,120 and expands slightly to 1,170. That's within 2% of max allowable. Total coverage, because of the removal of sheds and some brick patio, is proposed to decline by 8% to 2,744, and that puts it 8% below maximum allowable. So I want to make clear, the design and shape of the house is not necessarily out of character with the neighborhood. However, this proposed scale of redevelopment will represent a very significant impact and increase in mass and scale on a small lot. So to turn to the variance standards overall, I find this application falls short of the following specific variance standards. 255, 850 D1B is this the minimum variance necessary to alleviate difficult causing the applicant to request an area variance? And 255, 850 D2 tells us that the burden to establish this case or compliance with this variance is on, the burden is on the applicant. And where the applicant I felt falls short is they really did not establish a case of why they needed the house to be the size it is and still require the variances. They're actually reducing the number of bedrooms in the house from 4 to 3. And so they just were not clear with why this design, why there was not an alternative design that could have met their needs and still not required variances that are being requested. With respect to 255, 850 D3B, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method feasible without variance, again, that I don't believe that standard is met. Whether the difficulty caused 255, 850 D3E, whether difficulty causing the applicant to request an area variance was self-created. We've talked about this as a board before I was on the board. They bought a lot in 2021. They knew that the constraints of the size of the lot and, potential needs for variances, and potentially bought a lot that did not necessarily meet their needs. And will the grant of the variance create an adverse effect or impact on the physical environmental conditions of the neighborhood? Again, I think this board, we approach these applications where, in an area of this kind of density with rising groundwater, natural resources constraints, I think we do have to take it into account what the implication would be if this type and degree of development were to be repeated across lots all over this neighborhood, at this size. So it sort of, I feel that I do have to deny this application, even though I do appreciate the applicant's love of the neighborhood and, their enthusiasm for their property. But I think the intensity and scope of this design is not consistent with the standards, and the narrative was not in place to help us understand why there could have not been some more modulation on the house.
Thank you. Terry?
Sorry.
Okay, I actually I did take into account, originally as it was presented with the variances and the pyramid variances, the height variance, lot coverage, overage, it was a difficult application. However, I did take into account the changes that were made by the night of the hearing, in which they eliminated the lot coverage variance, the height, and 2 of the pyramids. I don't know if you could put up the elevations on the pyramid. And looking at this is the revised, and the visual on that compared to what was originally submitted is significantly different. It's just a snippet on those locations, and I did think that was a big improvement on those factors. And they're still going to be raising the elevation. It has to meet FEMA. there was a lot of discussion. I guess my concern is not so much on this, and I know they're pushing the envelope on taking the coverage of the house itself, the GFA, very close to the maximum. My biggest concern on this, that when we were talking, was the septic system and the flow of the water changing, how from east to west, from west to east to east to west. However, that, and the way the property grades down in that direction, however, it does grade toward the homeowner's house itself. I think stated, as Tyler stated, in the original TAM, it was very difficult application. But I know the planner also, with the changes, that he feels better about this application as it was modified. I am actually leaning toward approving this application. I do have some of the concerns about the septic and that comes into play. And the drainage, I'm concerned, even though it seems like in this immediate lot that might be addressed. I'm wary about the rest of the neighborhood. We've seen many of these in this area where ultimately the water runoff and the damage moves on to other properties, and we know in general that happens in this area. Just because of development. However, the GFA is remaining the same on this. They're not expanding any new structures. They're removing some structures, and I think they did a good job on modifying the application. And I think, I don't know, I don't feel that this is going to change the character of the neighborhood. We have other projects that I think have done that more, and I think the applicant's efforts, I think I'm going to approve this application. I think the applicant did do a good job, and that the needs of the applicant does outweigh the benefit or the detriment to the town or the neighborhood in question. And I do think it meets the NRSP standards. The addition of an IA system in and of itself, I do think is a good thing. Well, I think it does meet the standards, and I'm going to approve it.
Thank you. Yeah, this application fits in with others we're going to see in the future, and we have seen some already. And it also goes along with when we're in other areas and we're going to approve a structure being raised by 5 or 7 feet for FEMA, and then we realize that if you ask the question, does it change the character of the neighborhood? Yes, it does. But sometimes we move in favor because we think that the overall benefit to the environment is that we get an improved septic system, we get an improved condition of safety for the residents. We take a look at the whole package. When we come back to this one, I can't look at this and say it's not going to change the character of the neighborhood. We've got a concrete wall surrounding here. Where are we at with these kinds of applications in places like Hampton? This isn't the only time we're going to have someone come to us and want to improve their property, which they have a right to certainly approach us and do. Let's start with how big the addition is. I think it was mentioned by the representative, it was primarily a squaring off of an existing structure. I think that is basically true. I don't think it's a terribly large addition. I don't think it's egregious, certainly. I think that if we take a look at the pyramid, there's 3 variances down from, I think, the original 9 or whatever they were, they were 8 or 9. And the porch variance is a 5-foot variance for a porch. And then we have the 2 variances for pyramids. We consider them carefully. The one is just a slight break of the plane by the gable end, the peak at the gable end. The other one is a portion of a dormer. That dormer, as was described at the hearing, converted it from a storage space into living space. And so there was a great benefit to them in order to achieve a little more room on the given structure. We have a very constrained lot, and we have and we have them all over Beach Hampton and other places in the town. And when we get them and people are looking to improve, we're careful about how big can the property be and what can we do to guarantee or protect the environment. Now, I know the chair brought up that night, and it brings up regularly because it's of great concern to him, dune land as one of the factors, not just some of the other considerations we have, very often wetlands or side lot variances. We are changing the entire elevation of this property with this approval, the entire elevation of the property. It's not to be expected that it's going to reflect what was there before. The septic system was designed in a way, carefully, I think, to get it out of groundwater, which of course we want, using shallow galleys as best they could to get them in, and then to see what is the minimum. And that was brought up at the hearing and asked of the applicant, and the applicant addressed it. What was the minimum you could do to get a septic system? And I think Tyler addressed it as well. The minimum is where they have it placed in terms of staying clear of groundwater, and then with a minimum amount of coverage and pitching away at a reasonable slope, the height of the wall that's adjacent to that surrounds the property becomes a given. It's not a variable that can be changed in any very dramatic way. We did get a phone call from, they get 5 letters of support. One of the letters of support, one of the women who signed this, well, I didn't quite understand, and she had great concern about the height of the wall. Yeah, I do too. Everyone's got concern about the wall. There's another project down in Beach Hampton that took me by surprise when I first saw it, seeing a concrete wall around a house. Where are we going? Where are we going as a board? Where are we going as a town? If we're going to encourage IA systems, and they're in these sensitive areas, there's not a lot else you can do here. There's nothing else you can do. Now, we can deny the project, and we can say, stay with the given conditions that are on the site, stay with a smaller house or a house that comes back with us with a smaller sense of improvement. But we're not going to get an IA system on a lot like this unless we begin to look at it in a more, I won't say progressive, but we're going to have to open our eyes to what the reality is coming ahead. If we deny it, we're saying that these septic systems are going to be very, very hard for us, the IA systems anyway, hard for us to see our way to an end line. I thought it was an effective approach by them to tell us that they had looked at that. I know Mr. DeSuno commented about the engineering that was behind it. I appreciate the concerns of the neighbors. When we're done, are we accommodating the needs of the client or the applicant in this way, and then looking out in the best way we can for the environment? It almost pains me to say we are. I don't, aesthetically, I'm not happy to see concrete walls going around houses. And I think it was brought up by the planner, Tyler. I know it was brought up by Tyler, saying as progress progresses there in new ownership, anybody else looking to do a system is very likely going to be facing a very similar set of circumstances. So I'm taking this time just to say that these are not easy decisions. And in the end, in the balance, is the environment going to be protected in a way that satisfies us and satisfies the demands of the NRSP by allowing this project to move forward? Or are we opening the door to lots of other destruction of the dunescape, native dunescape here, which we can dance around that, but that's what's happening. We're bringing in fill on top of the native soils, and we can be careful with it, but it'll be completely recontoured in a shape that just reflects the needs of, in this case, the septic system. I'm going to approve the application. I'm going to approve the application because I think it's an inevitability that we're heading in that direction. And if we're going to continue to try to encourage to improve groundwater long-term in the town and to encourage every potential residents in this town to upgrade and improve faulty septic systems, this one we know is is set in water. And so it's not functioning in any capacity in the way we'd like to see it. This is an improvement. I'm not bothered by the size of the house. I am bothered by the wall. I am bothered by the idea that this is where we're headed. But I think it's a reality that's a new one that we're going to have to face, and hopefully we can improve in other ways. But on this particular application, I don't see that option. So I'm going to approve it at this time.
Thank you. And I don't disagree with you or Terry on this. I think I'm going to end up approving it anyway. But I think on the face of it, they did a very good job on and especially the pullback. I think they've done a good job. Where I really struggle is we are completely stripping the duneland character of this lot. And if it continues, we're going to destroy the duneland character of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I am really concerned about that. I also want to say I believe it's misleading to say that the clearing is 100% cleared. It's 100% cleared according to town zoning definition, but it's not 100% cleared when it comes to duneland vegetation and duneland character. So we have to be careful on that, and that being a basis for our approval. So with that said, I'm going to recommend approval. We're stripping the entire duneland. So what I would like to see, a condition of the approval, is that beach grass be planted everywhere there's clearing, to try to bring back somewhat of the duneland character of our area. Because this is like neutralizing a complete property.
It's eliminating
Yeah,
the native
it's
plants.
bothersome.
It's eliminating.
And
What's the condition of the duneland now? Didn't we have a large discussion about the revegetation and?
We don't have a plan yet.
but
Yeah, and as to how much can be done,
they're not
actually.
proposing it.
It's a condition of approval also, a re-veg plan, yeah.
No.
And we
But
did
then-
have a
but the
discussion with
survey
Tyler.
is saying that proposed is 6,000 square feet.
The proposed what?
The
For the
proposed
clearing,
is
that they're
6,000
gonna
square
leave it?
Yeah, well, that's what it's listed as now on the survey
Yeah.
as well.
Well, I'm basing it on the survey, so unless that
A lot of 6,000 square feet.
changes, I want to see, and I think that we should say, okay, so let's look at I just wanted then to dial into where the conditions, let's see, where we have that.
Yeah, E is a revegetation plan, including size, species, spacing. We struggled with exactly where that can be done, and then whether it's duneland versus
Well,
regular.
I mean, also the vegetation that's there on both property lines, a lot of it is ornamental, right? So I think, I don't know if that's coming out. I think some of that will come out because if I'm correct, the survey, the retaining walls go right up to the property lines. So I think any, re-veg
So
is not just,
can we add on item E on the thing, to the maximum extent possible to try to bring the character of the dunes back
Yeah.
into the property? Does that make sense?
I'm 100% behind
Yeah,
you on this.
yeah.
I really struggled with this one for the exact reason that you were bringing up, Mr. Chair. And I think that if as you've just phrased it, if it can be done to the maximum possible to try to recreate at least a little bit of the dunescape, I'm going to be much happier with my.
but not just dune grass, right? There's also other, there's other type of,
On item E, they list shrubby features and
Okay,
stuff
yeah,
like that,
right,
so they do
right.
talk about that, so I
Right.
think
To the
that's okay.
maximum.
Woody
Yeah.
vegetation,
Yeah.
something that's been.
can I just state one thing to
And
the,
approved and submitted
Yeah.
to planning department too.
Yeah, so I'm comfortable with the way they say it, but I would like to add to the maximum degree possible.
I just want to clarify something on GFA. So the GFA is expanding by 50%. I thought I heard Terry say it's not expanding
Yeah, I did say
and that it's the only expansion is squaring off on the first floor. It's expanding
Well,
by
the
50.
second floor.
Yeah, but the whole thing is a 50% expansion. So just want to make sure
We good,
clear on the
Council?
record.
I'm good, yeah, I can write it that way. Is that going to make sense to the planning department? Okay, you got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next is me solo.
Yeah, it's all on. Over to you, Mr. Chair.
Next is April Taylor, 419
Candy or
East Lake
something.
Drive, Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-6-2-19. Size and location is 19,062 square feet at 419 East Lake Drive. Montauk. The description is to allow an existing 124 square foot wood walk, 28 square foot shed, AC unit, approximately 380 square foot of deck expansion, propane tank, 40 square feet of outdoor shower and storage, and clearing to remain within wetland setbacks, and to allow existing window alterations and a driveway expansion to remain a parcel of land containing wetlands and beach vegetation. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town Code, and 7 variances are required for this application. 6 variances of 97 feet, 88 feet, 83 feet, 82.5 feet, 66 feet, 40 feet from 255-430C of the Town Code are required to allow the wood walk to remain 3 feet, shed 12 feet, AC unit 17 feet, deck 17.5 feet, propane tank 34 feet, and outdoor shower and storage to remain 60 feet from wetlands where 100 foot is required, and 1 variance of 255-430D is required to allow the existing clearing to remain within 50 feet of wetland and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is A residence, AE6 flood zone, AE5 flood zone, and flood zone X. Secret class is type 2. And the board discussed this last week. I was not here.
Weeks ago,
Was it last week? No, the week before.
couple weeks ago. Yeah.
And I was not here, so I get to weigh in. I'll just reiterate some of the particulars. The hearing was held on 4/16/2024. The property is in HPOD in Coastal Overlay District number 2, and the application is to allow 124 square foot wood walk, which is 97 feet from, which is 97-foot variance, 28-foot shed, 88-foot variance, AC unit, 83-foot variance, 380 square foot deck expansion, 82.5-foot variance, propane tank, 66-foot variance, outdoor shower, 60-foot variance, and clearing within wetlands of 50-foot. Let me address the window alterations. I think the window alterations being already done, as the board in their determination last time, I agree with the board on that it's already done, and those mitigating circumstances can't be, it's minuscule. This comes down to the C of O, let's see. There was a C of O in this in 2018, and the owner bought this house in 2019. And the entire property is within 100 foot of wetlands except for the flag strip. The issue here is since 2018, clearing has increased 335 feet. Building coverage has increased 102 feet. And total lot coverage has increased 3,813, which was determined to be part of the flag strip, was not in that original survey and now is in the updated survey. On the face of this application, these are a number of very small, very low impact structures and issues, as Tam points out. But I agree with the other members of the board in the fact that this is a sum of the parts type of thing, where there's a cumulative effect on this property, which is disturbing, and we have to balance whether or not the mitigation is adequate for it. They are. Let me just pull up. They are submitting or proposing a 50-foot wide easement. Do you have that survey? Can you just, okay, pull it up. The issue really for me is, and I agree with the board is that does the required revegetation that they are proposing rise to the level of protection for our wetlands? And I think the proposed, because of large part of this revegetation is along the flag, that they have not adequately addressed the additions to the wetlands in adequate revegetation, as the board, I think is the majority of the board, or was it all the board? I don't remember.
On the re-veg?
On the re-veg.
I think we had concern about the size of the
Yeah.
easements.
The scenic easement was, on that survey, was different than discussed at the hearing.
So here's the thing, so part of the hearing, John Tarbett brought up the fact that they had already done this revegetation.
Mhm.
My viewpoint is, if we are looking at some of these parts of these additions that they have done, I believe we do have to give credit to some of the revegetation they've done already at the same time. However, I still feel it falls short of the protection to the wetlands. My suggestion would be to increase the easement and the buffer, and increase the revegetation. My suggestion would be to take it, you see that, Morgan, if you can, just to the north of that, you have a clearing line that kind of zigzags. So the peak of that clearing line, if you took a parallel line to the deck and brought it down, I think that would bring it, or say
horizontal.
maybe toward 10 feet of that deck.
The would walk
I
or the
would be
deck?
satisfied with approving this application if we increased that and gave additional revegetation to that as a condition of approval.
Can we just establish where it begins?
Yeah,
Because
can
I
we
think,
comment on that? Yeah.
yeah, like it was in the water, Terry.
All the
You
way,
wanna just-
all the way
yeah.
to the
Okay, so the beginning, yeah.
northwest.
Oh,
They're asking
You
for
have your
the
We
yellow.
got to zoom in a little more on
But
that.
I think I know there's some debate of where it begins or not. No, go parallel to the deck.
oh, okay, like,
Go parallel to the deck, something like that.
The hearing.
If we increase it, I think it's inconsequential then where it begins or not. We're increasing the vegetation and the easement. I almost think that concern goes away. But that would be my condition of approval.
So if that line moves up, where that's representing not just revegetation, but easement. In your mind, it's representing
Correct.
easement.
Easement.
Correct.
And what number is that relative to the deck? How far off the deck do we see it? Is it 10 or 12 feet? Is that what we're saying? Because that was sort of where we were at the hearing with
At the
Morgan.
hearing, yeah, we were at 12
About
feet,
12 feet,
about
12 and a
12
half
feet away from
from
the deck. That Morgan had recommended the 50-foot easement.
And at that hearing, we
And
thought
then you
a
had the
12-foot.
10-foot setback, so that, and then I'm not sure how much we discussed the re-veg of that clearing line in there.
Yeah, but the line you have drawn there is very much what we had suggested, with some area left between the deck and the easement, which I remember as being about 12 feet in our discussion.
Yeah, 12 feet from the,
And if that's correct, at 12 feet, that was the sticking point for me in an approval, because they did not come back with that after the hearing
Right.
with an affirmation. that
I'm saying that needs to be a condition of approval. Because
they came back with what's on that survey,
Yeah.
which is different than was discussed and apparently agreed at the hearing, which was pretty much where Morgan kind of has it there.
So it's like a diagonal, the line is running parallel to the facade of the house in the rear, right? It's sort of,
Now, I would think revegetation of that cleared area.
Absolutely, that's got to be revegetated
required.
in there. Absolutely.
I think some of it is 4 foot.
That's a large difference
In
from
there.
what was offered, though, so
Right.
you're making a very good point. And if that's the condition, there may have been a very different attitude by the board.
So I think for all of us, like we each left a few of the different variance items unresolved. So do we need to go through them again, council?
No, what's that? I'm saying approve.
You just want to approve all
I'll
of
approve the
yeah.
application with that condition. I mean, I'm not happy with them moving the shower, but I think, again, each one of these, you know, it's as long as there's a dry well there, I think I'm
Right.
fine with it. But,
I'll say what I think, and that is that if we get that kind of protection for the wetlands, that's the major victory on this particular
With
parcel.
revegetation.
And so the
in there.
individual items, as you suggest, I'm hearing, are not going to, the combination of the grouping, I'm willing to approve based on that protection for the wetlands, which was not offered to us before.
Can you get that, like,
Yeah, I'm just trying to situate in a way where it's not, like, none of the structures that are existing are going to be within the 10-foot setback of the
does it come that
right.
far down? That's because of the shower.
No, it's because of the stairs for the deck. So this
Stairs.
measurement here is, this is obviously approximate, I'm not a surveyor. But the distance depicted.
no, I think you forget the stairs. I think it got to go to the edge of the deck. That was my intent.
Okay,
I'm looking at taking it to that peak of that clearing limit there.
okay.
Approximately
yeah,
there,
if
and
you take
going parallel to the deck.
If you take it 10 feet from the deck for the
You're-
setback, for the
10
So
easement,
that lower point has to come down. It has to go parallel to the deck.
Yeah, there you go, something.
And there you
Yeah.
go, and there you go. You do got some room around
and that
that.
was roughly what was discussed at the hearing, and
Yes.
then
Yeah, and
something
you do-
different was
You
submitted.
have room around that stair to get around.
Yeah.
And revegetate what
That's
is cleared in
that's
that,
it there.
within that area. I was a total denial on the thing, but with this additional mitigation of that and the revegetation of whatever is cleared within that area, I could approve it. My initial denial of the entire thing, by the way, maybe I didn't mention it, does not include the walk, because I do feel that the walkway is something we typically allow as a short thing, so that the variance for that wouldn't even be needed.
I agree with that. I think I agree with the board making the determination that that is a structure. So,
Yeah. Now, the only other condition is there is the float that
no,
was,
that goes.
that has to go. That has to go regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, they've already removed the other shower, right? The original shower has already been removed?
Yes.
It should be.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
I still don't like the shower.
And the propane tank, I agree with what they said. There has to be distance away from certain things. Not ideal, but
Yeah, so just to close the loop on where I was already pretty much okay on the shower. I think it just, I mean, it's a different wetland setback to a different wetland, but I was okay with it. And I think it actually makes more sense in that position for them. Now, I had not opined on the deck yet. I also wanted to see, thought the mitigation that was put in front of us was pretty insufficient. So with this condition of where this line is right now for the easement and the re-veg, I would also approve the deck and all the other variances.
right.
You
No,
know something, I have to deny that shower. I have to.
right, whatever.
Yes.
We do have a
Took out a legal one and you put it in a legal
Yeah,
one.
but the legal one was also very non-conforming to wetlands, so that's why.
The one wetland, now you've got one non-conforming to two wetlands.
Can I ask a question that I raised at the last meeting? There's a chunk of the applicant's driveway that is off the property. It's on the neighbor's property. You can see it there. So what happens, I mean,
Where do you see that?
you see it curves off the property line, doesn't it?
we
Oh,
can't,
on
we
that
can't make a
side.
determination on that.
But what I'm asking is what happens, I mean, if the driveway has to move back on the property, then it would re-clear, would change the coverage. I just don't know how that would
They
work.
would have to come back to us.
Okay,
Back.
all right.
I do have a statement from member Savarese, which I received just before this meeting, so I didn't affect my determination at all, but I'm asked to read it into the record. She is not here. She had a family difficulty, and our prayers with her are with her this evening as well. I have, over the last week, reevaluated my prior decision, and I now would approve the application in its entirety if, as a condition of approval, we say they bring the easement up to what the planning department recommended. I think we're deciding that. That, along with the revegetation proposed, will adequately mitigate the concerns I previously had. So we can have this as a condition of approval. I would approve the application in its entirety. You good, counsel?
I'm good.
Thank you.
And the project conditions are all in there, including the wooden float structure
Yes.
and the DEC permit and all that.
Yes.
Next, we have Eileen Devlin at
There's another
60
one.
South Forest Street, Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map Number 300-28-8-32.1. Size and location is 45,727 square feet and 36,501 square feet. 60 South Forest Street, Country Club Estates at Montauk, Section 2, filed August 15th, 1968, map number 5152 in Montauk. The description is to demolish an existing 1,872 square foot residence and construct a 3,270 square foot two-story residence with 556 square foot attached garage, 490 square foot of decking and porches, 400 square foot of terrace, 1,000 square foot pergola, 360 square foot swimming pool, 200 square foot pool patio, 196 square foot pool house, IACID sanitary system, and to allow clearing on a property containing a freshwater wetland. A natural resources special permit pursuant to 255, 420, and that's the relief sought, and the zoning district is B residence, Stone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. This was yours, right?
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board will remember that this hearing was held on June 25th, 2024. Survey we initially worked from was from May 30th, 2024. Later on, we were issued a survey that included some changes to the original proposal, and that was issued on June 27th, I misspoke. The first survey was May 30th, 2024, and then June 27th, 2024. And that was to move the clearing line and to establish a couple of other minor changes. Andy Hammer represented the applicant. This was a complete development. The existing house that's on the site was to come down, and it's to be, new residence is to be moved to the east, further from wetlands, and there will be some improvements made in the distance and the spacing between both the new construction and the wetlands. The house and the septic are removed as far from the wetlands as possible. This requires an NRSP and no variances, because everything is set back at least 150 feet. The septic system is 150 feet from wetlands. The house is more than 150 feet. The house is more than 100 feet from wetlands. The applicant is willing to revegetate along the house, where the house is to be taken out, and the western lawn. The area that was disturbed by the removal of the house will then be revegetated as additional protection and buffer to the wetlands. This is a large parcel, over an acre. A good portion of it moving to the west was where the wetlands were concerned. In an effort to gain our approval from this board, they've moved the house as far to the east as is legally possible. The attached garage that was originally on the plan was removed, and a couple of other items here. That the pool is a 360 square foot pool, which I thought was not an overreach in asking for a pool, and all structures meet setbacks. So we start at that point with them. A DC permit exists for them to move forward with the work, which does not necessarily factor in our decision making. They've offered a large scenic easement. let me see, on the July 2nd letter that we received in 2024 from East End Land Planning, that one was signed by Katie Osecki, confirms that 4,643 square feet of re-veg will be largely to the west between the house and the wetlands, and increase the setback from 9 feet from wetlands where they then open cleared space to 50 feet. A clearing space from 9 feet to 50 feet. That letter was in response to some questions that were raised during the hearing by members of the board saying that re-veg was important, but could we confirm that it would be in that area? There was also questions raised about non-native species and invasive species, that there was some bamboo, and in that letter she said they were going to remove at least the portion of it that we could see that was along that open area. It was, at that time, as I said, we were accompanied by an additional survey at 62724. The scenic easement provides 23,090 square foot. That's the size of it. And some invasives, as I said, that were in the in question will be removed. To me, there were only one question about this. I mean, it's a win-win. The house is moving as far as you possibly can. The septic is moving as far as you possibly can from the wetlands on the lot. That's an immediate plus. I think that they created a linear structure which allows the pool not to project any further from the house in order for it to exist. That was probably that you could design. I think that in designing a house that paralleled the South Fuller and get it as again, as comfortably set on the lot, I think it was a real positive. If there's a negative, and I think we face this in a couple of places where we've moved houses back from the water lines in many places, this house is now going to sit very directly out and in front of people on South Fuller. I think when you ask questions like, does it affect the character of the neighborhood, I think there is going to be a presence for a house that now sits comfortably behind a vegetated buffer. That will be eliminated when this house moves forward. Not that it can't have plantings in front of that, but we do have that as a consideration. That was brought up, and there was a question whether or not along the corner, the septic system is also moving as far east as possible. So the vegetation, as we know, over a septic system can only be grasses, and so you will not have any large structures. But the applicant was willing to do what they could, and it was reflected in their response to revegetate that corner as fully as possible, both for their privacy and to satisfy us and our needs. This wasn't a hard one for me. When we get a win like this, where the existing structure gets an upgraded septic and moves as far as possible from the wetlands, it was an easy approval for me. And I thought it rose to the standard we were asking for, and that was the NRSP standards. Are we doing the best we can to improve the environment with any possible project? This one did it for me, and I don't have a problem. I think it was well thought out, well presented. I think they realized what our concerns would be, and as best they could, creating a house that fit their needs, they designed something that was not hard for me to approve. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to approve this at this time.
Thank you. All right.
I'm in agreement with Member Johan. This application, well, I'll mention it. It was originally slated or requested to be an admin, but I have concerns with complete redevelopments that go admin. So we did request a hearing, and I think the plan, as stated, it maximizes the benefits to the environment. All the items addressed in Katie Osecki's letter, July 2nd, the additional scenic easement. The one discussion we had, it was that in this application, previous iterations of it had a second garage being put in at the corner of South Forest Street. And at the hearing, the survey, it had been removed from the latest survey that we received in May. And then, so we did discuss moving the clearing line, and on the new survey did reflect the clearing. I'd like to go over that a little bit. That's not the latest survey, though. You have the survey dated June 27th?
This is July.
that we received on July 2nd? Because that shows it shows the clearing line moved. Yeah, that one.
That was part of their response on that letter, right? Yeah,
Huh?
move the clearing line. They were saying that was part of
Is
their
it clear?
response.
With the proposed, did they say they moved that clearing line? Mostly planted to the west there. No, I don't see that. It's on the survey. It was
Yeah,
reflected on
okay.
the survey
Yeah,
submitted.
Okay.
That was an area that we discussed at the hearing for perhaps revegetation. But I guess they pose it as it's now that the garage is not going to be there, it's not a cleared area. I'm not sure if that's 100% true. So just this line at the bottom, the squiggly line at the bottom is not part of this. They moved this clearing line to come all the way up here. So this will remain as it is in existence today. Can we stipulate that it would be revegetated for any of that portion that's cleared? I mean, I'm approving this application. I do think it's a good one, and I'm happy with the scenic easement of 23,000 plus square feet.
No, that's revegetated. The proposed clearing line is between here, the cleared area is between there and the house.
Right.
So this is a vegetated,
So here, this is where the garage had been.
that's right,
Yeah.
now they filled that in. This is all now
Okay.
revegetated.
So
So the
is it
cleared area is between
revegetated?
here
or-
and the house, then the water line is cleared.
Yeah, I see that part. It's this part down here,
That's
over
all
here.
revegetated. That's all
Do we know
vegetated
that?
now. Or
Or-
it's uncleared, it's
To
uncleared.
me, is it uncleared? I don't know. I don't remember actually.
Yes, it
from
is,
being at
because
the present.
That's
It's
your,
uncleared? Okay.
it's uncleared.
Okay, so we don't have to do anything with that. I am going to approve this application. There are a couple of files that, as far as the approved documents in our determination, the septic plan should be dated March 22nd, 2024, because they were changing. And actually, that still reflects a garage in that location.
Yeah, but it's a survey prevails.
Yeah, okay. And then also, I'm just bringing this out. And then on the building plans themselves, there's a site plan, shows a driveway. Some of the items in the site plan need to be updated, A010, A410, which shows a garage still there, and A010. And A400 should be deleted from the approved
Yeah,
plans when it goes on the
when they go to the
determination.
building department, they have to conform to this survey. So if the garage is not on the survey, they can't have a garage that's on the survey. Right? They can't.
Yeah, I know, but the building plans that they submit to the
They'll
building
have to change.
department should
that-
reflect
that-
what was
They're
approved.
gonna be, yeah.
So I'm
building
just
department will
bringing
pick that
this up, that some of that
You
needs
got
to
it.
be removed or
Yeah.
changed. Other than that, I'm approving the application itself.
Thank you. Okay.
So I'm not going to reiterate all the environmental condition improvements and benefits that are created, the scenic easement, the revegetation, around that, the wetlands, and getting the house, beyond needing wetland setbacks. So I understand all that, but I do want to say, and I'm going to approve the application, but I really do want to get this on the record, which is the NRSP standards are not just about the environmental. It tells us clearly that a project must be compatible with all of 255-111, which gets to the heart of neighborhood character and the impact of structures on other structures. Tyler had given us 8 comps surrounding this house in terms of their sizes relative to the lot size. And I do want this on the record, this house is 70% larger than the average of those 8, I think it was 8 comps, and sets a new size record in this neighborhood. It's 15% bigger than the house next door. And obviously this property actually gets the setback benefit because when you strip out the wetlands, the lot area becomes smaller than what the whole neighborhood requires of a 30-foot, front yard setback. So this is a 95-foot wide house that's 20 feet from the road that is bigger than anything else that is there. And that it does concern me because this is a character changer potentially in this neighborhood. And the applicant's agent, Andy Hammer, said this is going to change the streetscape. So I just want to go on the record with that. I understand, I don't know that's enough to deny it, but it's a concern. It's a concern to me with applications like this. I just don't think that environmental benefits have to come necessarily at the cost of neighborhood character.
I just want to say that it's 20 feet from the property line.
I'm sorry,
That's what's
yeah,
gonna
that's what I meant,
change it.
sorry.
That's what's gonna
Instead of
change the
30, I mean,
That's why.
right, yeah, and it's gonna really, we've seen some of the other things that have been approved.
For the most part, though, it is a by right.
I know I'm not, again, I'm approving the application, but I want to make the note that it is a game changer, I think, for the character of the neighborhood and existing land use patterns in the place. So
I agree with the board. I have nothing else to add. Okay, council? Okay, next we have an extension of time, 80 Firestone Road, Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-17-1-5, and it's the demo of 4 cottages and construction of 4 new cottages at 4 Pond Bay. And some of us will remember, I don't know if you were here then, but you were, so.
My very first decision.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is a recent thing. They're in construction, I understand. So, I mean, I would go ahead and make a motion to approve it.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah.
They're pretty much on their way. Okay, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
So the application of 80 Firestone Road LLC at 80 Firestone Road in Montauk, tax map 300-017-01-05, make a motion to approve the extension of time.
I'll second it.
concur.
Concur. We next have the draft minutes of July 30th, 2024.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from July 30th, 2024 for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
Concur. Thank you. We have one resolution this evening. That's
We
Marielana.
We're
don't,
skipping it.
No, we
don't
don't.
have it yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. All right.
Executive session.
Terry, I'm going to ask you to do the honors of adjournment. And then we're going to go into executive session
I'd like to make a motion to
to
close
discuss legal matters.
the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals zoning board meeting at 8:50 PM and make a motion to go into executive session.
Second it.
Concur.
Concur. Thank you.
Thank you.